Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. How's it going? Uh, Happy that you're here. Welcome to a late night edition of the Ben Burnside Show. Here with a quick reaction, as quick as I can, reaction to what happened tonight in UFC 252 between Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier. Who was the greatest heavyweight champion of all time? Well, we found out tonight by decision that it was Stipe Miocic, and I have a lot to say about that fight, a lot to say about the comments after that fight as well, and I have a lot to say about all the other fights. So I'll get right to it because it was an interesting night. It was an interesting night that you know it, looking back at the pay per view, to me it didn't feel like as big of an event as UFC 251 did. Somebody said after the show to Dana White that this was the biggest fight feel since the pandemic, and I'm like, no, no, it's not. UFC 251 was bigger, but I would say that this was uh, neck and neck close number two with Stipe and Daniel. The fight between those two was incredible. It was a championship fight. Daniel Cormier is a champion in my book. That guy is he's one of the greatest of all time. He just is. So I'll get into all of that. And I'll talk about Daniel Cormier's career as well and where he stands. Where I think he is in terms of the all-time greats. So, but let's get started from as how I always do at the very beginning of the card. And all day today, I was debating whether or not I was going to, uh, whether or not I was going to buy the pay-per-view. And as the show was going on, I was debating and debating until the very end of whether or not I was going to buy the pay-per-view. Because honestly, I don't like Sean O'Malley, and I didn't want to. I don't know. I don't feel like buying a pay-per-view with Sean O'Malley at the end because at the end of the day, I bought this pay-per-view because of the main event between Stipe and Daniel. That's just epic fight. And but the prelim fights definitely enticed me a little more, and along with the hype videos, frankly, of the main card fights, they enticed me a little more to buy the pay-per-view. So, but particularly the fight that hyped me to buy this show was the very first fight of the night, which ended up being the fight of the night, both in Dana White's opinion and in my opinion, and I'm sure in the majority of fans' opinions. Kai Kamaka III taking on Tony Kelly. Uh, Man, this was a close fight. This was an epic fight. Tony Kelly started off early with the early shots, but Kai started to take over in the late first round to the point where it might have been 10-8, but no, it's not 10-8. Kai definitely took over. It was 10-9, and sorry, I'm speaking quietly. By the way, it's late, but it's definitely it's definitely a thing where Kai uh, Kai definitely took over in the first round. After that, though, in the second round, Tony took advantage in that round and really landed the bigger shots, particularly the knees. I think to the sternum were not fun, but it was a war the whole time. It was an epic battle. In the third round, it was also an epic battle. I think there was a knee to the groin or something like late in the third round, and after that, they fought for another minute and 30 seconds before the fight ended. And it wasn't a war like before that groin shot happened for the rest of the fight, but it was still fight of the night. The fight was fucking awesome, and I really think that yeah, that was an epic fight. This was the second curtain jerker fight of the week in a row where to me this was the fight of the night. The fight of the night last week was that guy from Jordan versus Robert Burns' camp. And those two fought in the fight of the night. This curtain jerker was the fight of the night too. So And it's like Joe Rogan said. He said he was talking during this fight, and he said this is such a high level fight. I mean, the and this is just the first fight of the night. I mean, this sport has just grown so much. It's just insane. And I've thought that I've had that exact same thought, and I'm glad that Joe Rogan, being as smart as he is, said that. Because I've had that thought for weeks now. If not months, of just how good these fights are from top to bottom. They're just fucking amazing now, and the level of competition in this sport just grown exponentially from like 10 years ago. If these two fought 10 years ago, this would be in the main event of a show from 10 years ago. This would be higher level maybe than that, probably. So it's just insane how good these guys are now. I don't even know what to say. I, I personally, I didn't. It doesn't bother me too much, but I thought Tony Kelly won that fight. He pulled away with the win, but I could see Kai also winning the fight. It was such a close fight too, along with it being such a awesome fight that it's just you know it doesn't bother me that Kai won. The 25-year-old Kai Kamaka won. I'm glad Tony. I'm glad they're both in the UFC. They're great additions, clearly, and hopefully we get to see more of them very soon. Hopefully they take their time off because they really beat the shit out of each other a lot. It was just an awesome fight, and they deserve fight of the night. They deserve that bonus. Next fight up the card was a heavyweight fight between two more debut guys. Chris Dawkins fighting around from Pennsylvania versus Parker Porter. Uh, um, he's a longtime veteran, fought since like 12 years, and at 35 years old, he's making his debut. Dawkins is a little younger. He's in his prime at 30 years old. Um, Dawkins, I noticed, had more KOs, and from this fight, I can see why. He was very impressive in this fight. To me, the story was that Park of this fight to me was that Parker once fought John Jones early in John Jones's career, and it was pretty cool seeing John Jones tweet about Parker during the fight, and shouting out to him because and saying how hard he's worked for this and he's supporting him. That's pretty dope to see a guy like John Jones sending their support to a newcomer like Parker Porter like that. And when I mean newcomer, I mean like a new member of the UFC roster. This guy is by no means a brand new MMA fighter. He's a longtime veteran, and it's a hell of a road to get in the UFC sometimes. I imagine for these fighters, and it's pretty dope to see a guy like John Jones giving respect to a veteran that's maybe not as accomplished as him. Well, definitely not, but you know, that there's friendships in this game, and it's pretty cool to see a guy like John Jones talk about a guy like that from farther down the card. It's pretty cool. Nevertheless, though, Parker was a lot bigger, but noticeably a lot slower from right out of the gate. And Parker's striking was a lot more fast and crisp than, or Chris Dawkins, I should say, was a lot more fast and crisp than Porter's. And yeah, he took advantage of that. He was lighting him up throughout as long as the fight went, which was 4 minutes and 28 seconds in the first round. Dawkins ended up clipping Porter enough to where Porter went on his knees by the side of the cage. And Dawkins did like a running knee, like just smashing him and finishing the fight, and hitting him a couple times, finishing the fight. He didn't get a fight night bonus, I believe. I don't think he got one. He should have. He should have, looking back on it. It was a pretty devastating way to beat him. Thinking about it, I would have taken the fight bonus, one of the fight bonuses off of a guy I'm going to mention later, and I would have given the fight bonus to Dawkins. He destroyed Parker to win this fight. He really did. Dawkins looks like an impressive guy. So I think this is going to be a hell of a feat, and he's going to be a guy to watch in the heavyweight division. They've added a couple good heavyweights lately into that division. There's that guy from England who boxed Jake Collier a couple weeks ago. Now Parker Porter. So, or no, well, Parker Porter and who else? The guy who won tonight, Dawkins. So there, there's some additions that are flying under the radar at heavyweight that could be interesting down the road. Um, Neither are grapplers, to my understanding, but they're bangers. They're strikers. And they could be something interesting down the road. Next on the card, we're getting into the prelims now. And I hope Parker Porter gets a shot after this fight. That's just my hope. Women's strawweight, we got Ashley Yoder taking on Livia Renata Souza. I had Yoder winning this fight. Let's just get to it. I thought this was the controversial fight of the night for me. I thought the judges picked the wrong fighter to win. I thought Yoder won the fight. She maybe didn't. Souza might have grappled her more, but she never had her in like finishing trouble a good portion of those rounds. And Yoder outstruck her in the third round, and I think in another round too. So I thought I had Yoder winning 29-28, and one of these idiot judges had the Souza winning the fight 30-27. Again, these judges, like, I mean, I don't know. We're in the fight capital of the world, and we're still having these judges make dumb calls like this. It just, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, so I think Souza won the first round from what I remember. But Yoder did enough to win the second round, just enough, in my opinion. But in the third round, I thought Yoder outstruck Souza quite a bit. And even though Souza might have outgrappled her in the third round, I don't remember too much. I still think Yoder won the. Still think Yoder won the third round, and I just don't think it was the right call. It was an interesting. Yoder's an interesting addition. This is her first loss in her last three fights, or something like that. So she's not going anywhere. And Souza has an impressive 14-2 record. So maybe she's knocking at a strawweight like ranking fight. So I'll pull up the rankings here, see who she could fight. Because maybe she can fight like Felice Herrig or something next. But Felice won't be ranked after tonight, unfortunately. So I don't know who she could fight next. Yeah. I just thought this was a bad call. I did not think Souza won tonight. So yeah, that's what I saw happen. I wasn't super impressed with Yoder striking as a fan, and granted, I'm just a fan. I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy that watches the fights closely. I just didn't think she did enough good striking, and apparently the striking coach yelled at her during one of the breaks in the fight. Going to the rankings here. Let's go to strawweight. She could fight like Alexa Grasso, maybe. No, Angela Hill just got booked for a fight. I don't know if Alexa Grasso has a fight. Maybe she could fight Souza next. That would be interesting. So yeah. Alexa Grasso versus Souza, that could be pretty good. I think, but Grasso versus Berna also would be interesting. So, interesting stuff there. Featherweight. Oh, and I'm going to try to do I'm gonna try to make a file of like when judges make bad calls. I want to try to find the scorecards that I don't agree with, so I note the judge that. So I write down the judge's name. You know, I wish people would put these judges, particularly the MMA media. I wish they had these judges held to better accountability. I just am not a fan of some of these idiot judges that make the calls. I mean, how hard is it to make some of these calls? Some of these calls that the judges make are just stupid. You know, just stupid. And I know we don't have their eyeballs to look at what they see in the fight, but goddamn, how hard is it to make some of these calls? Can't be that hard. I just thought, man, they messed up with the Yoder Souza fight, in my opinion. A fight they didn't mess up on though was the next fight, Danny Chavez versus T.J. Brown. I had Chavez winning the fight 29-28, and he looked pretty damn impressive. Apparently he's been fighting since he was like 19. He's now 33, so he's been working a long time to get in the UFC. T.J. Brown, he won the Contender Series fight, and he lost his debut, so he was looking to bounce back here. But he didn't really have an answer for Chavez until round 3. By then, he couldn't put Chavez away. It was too late. Chavez won the fight, and you know, Chavez is fast. This Colombian guy that lives in Miami, he is fast. Fast with his hands, fast with his legs. I wouldn't want to be T.J. Brown's left calf right now. That calf is battered and bruised from Chavez hitting it with his lightning and powerful shots throughout the fight. It was brutal. And I think this Chavez is an interesting addition to the featherweight division. I would like to see how he goes. He looks like he means business, and I want to see him fight. Seems like a pretty entertaining fighter. Both of these guys do. This was an excellent fight too. This was maybe the third fight of the night, I'd give it, behind the first fight and the main event. So, yeah, this was an interesting fight. I think Danny Chavez would be an interesting addition. Will he make the top 15? I don't know, man. That's a tough call. He's going to have to be active. He's already 33. T.J. Brown, I hope he gets another crack in the UFC or getting released or something. So hopefully that's the case. The pandemic is on his side. You know, they can't just they can't throw everybody out in the UFC. Next up was maybe one of the more impressive finishes of the night. Felice Herrig taking on Berna Jandiroba. And this fight ended the way that I thought it was going to end, just by looking at these two fighters on paper. I knew Felice was more of a Muay Thai fighter coming into this fight. I didn't know anything about Verna. So I knew she was a great submission artist by looking at her resume. I didn't know she was a world-class jiu-jitsu grappler, like a world championship level grappler. And she schooled Felice on the ground. It was very impressive. Joe Rogan was super impressed watching the fight. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and you could hear it in his voice how impressed he was, and rightfully so. Felice Herrig, she held her ground for a little bit on the ground. She clearly isn't bad on the ground herself, but man, this Verna girl is world championship jiu-jitsu grappler level jiu-jitsu player. It's crazy how good she was. And she submitted Felice pretty handily in the first round. 1 minute and 44 seconds into the fight, she got her into an armbar very easily, it felt like. And she won. This should have Verna overthrow Felice Herrig out of the rankings, unfortunately. And she should be taking Felice's number 15 spot. So I would have her fight Alexa Grasso next if Grasso doesn't have a fight. Wouldn't make sense for her to fight Angela Hill. Angela Hill's booked. Amanda Ribas just fought. You know, her fighting uh, Verna. I don't know about that. Um, Tisha Torres. She just won her last fight, so that don't make sense either. So yeah, I think Alexa Grasso makes sense next for Verna. Um, Felice Herrig, damn it, I didn't want to see her drop out of the rankings. I have a man crush on Felice Herrig, just like everyone else does. So I've been a fan of her since The Ultimate Fighter, so that kind of sucked. I didn't like that at all. But Felice is 35, um, so she's not old, but she's she's 35 though, and I don't know, she's out of the rankings. Maybe her versus Ashley Yoder would be an interesting fight, or I don't know who else. Maybe that wrestler from AKA, that girl. Um, maybe Souza would be an interesting fight against Felice. I mean, there's options of who she could fight next. So she's gonna stay in the UFC. There's no doubt about that. But man, it sucked to see her lose like that tonight. I didn't like that, but Berna's the real deal. She's a really good fighter. I don't see Alexa standing much of a chance against Berna. I'm going to be honest, if they fought. Alexa didn't do well against Tatiana on the ground. She lost pretty handily. And even though Alexa probably grew a lot since then, I just wonder if it's enough against a world championship level jiu-jitsu grappler. So we'll see how it goes. And Berna should be interesting to watch. Uh, And I also think she does deserve that $50,000 bonus. She's definitely one of the people who deserved it, and she got it from Dana White. Nothing much really to add. Um, Feature prelim in the lightweight division uh, was Jim Miller taking on Vince Pichel. I totally forgot about how good Vince Pichel was. I think I realized he was on a record a few years ago, or he was on a run, but I totally forgot. He got smashed by Gregor a little while ago. He didn't look, and Gregor made him, frankly, didn't look like a guy who didn't look like he was on a run. But Miller, but when looking at Pichel's resume in ShareDog.com, he clearly was a guy to look at. Jim Miller has won his last three straight. He didn't say some very encouraging words leading up to this fight, like he wasn't healthy or something like that. So, Miller's been through a lot. He's fought off Lyme disease. He's in a better state now in terms of fighting the disease, I believe. So, from what I hear, and it looked like with Pichel being a year older than Miller, Miller looked like he was a sure guy to win, but turned out not being the case. Miller tried to take him down, and he was impressive in the first round, but Pichel dominated in the second round with power. And like Dominic Cruz said, it looked like he took over Miller in terms of the grappling by using MMA grappling and not jiu-jitsu grappling. What I mean by that is he was punching him a lot while grappling him. So he did a good job mixing that up. And as they said, he was bigger and probably stronger than Miller. He was a smaller guy than Pichel. And Pichel took over the next two rounds and won a 29-28 win. Impressive work by Pichel against a guy who was in a winning streak. And Pichel's right back at it now, and hopefully he won't get a top 15 fight next in the most competitive MMA division in all of MMA, in the lightweight division. He won't get a ranked guy next, but I hope he gets a formidable guy next, a guy who's barking at the top 15. That seems like the right choice for who's next for him. So, if you pass Jim Miller, then you should go up and fight guys like that. So hopefully that's the case. Pichel had a pretty cool mustache, as they pointed out. Hopefully Miller fights I don't know who Miller should fight next. That's an interesting one too. Hey, Jim Miller against Michael Chandler wouldn't be a bad idea. Wouldn't be a bad idea. I think Michael Chandler might be insulted by that, but hey, that's not a bad opening for UFC career. Um, um, maybe Jim Miller against, I don't know, Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. But I don't see Bobby fighting for a while. He's still recovering. Well, Jim Miller's now recovering too, so maybe that does make sense. Jim Miller against, I don't know, that Russian dude that took out Davi Ramos. That might be too rough. I wouldn't want any guy to fight that guy. Maybe a Gregor Gillespie. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. James Vick versus Jim Miller also would be interesting. So we'll see how this goes. Now we're going to the main card. Main card of the show. I did not watch the intro to the main card. I decided to buy the pay-per-view. After the Miller fight, I said, F it, let's do it. You know, I just got my unemployment money, so I don't know. I guess I was more comfortable buying a pay-per-view, you know, having some fun. But I didn't watch the intro. I didn't watch the commentators talk at the beginning of the pay-per-view. I didn't watch the highlights. I went straight into the hyping up for the John Dodson versus Merab Dvalishvili match. Let me pronounce this right. Dvalishvili. That's a hard name to pronounce. So yeah. You know, I was really hoping John Dodson would win that fight. I really was. I had a feeling that Dvalishvili would win. He just did. He just was the younger guy. He's 29. He's in his prime. Dodson is not. He's 36, going on 37. Or no, he's 35, but he was going to be like 36 next week. So I think that's how it is. And I think Dvalishvili was a bigger guy, noticeably bigger than Dodson, who used to fight at flyweight and fought the best in the world, arguably the best, to me, the best ever, Demetrius Johnson at flyweight. So Johnson's fought them all, but this Dvalishvili guy, he's game right now, and tactically, Dvalishvili beat Johnson, which is kind of a surprise because John Dodson's been in the game forever, and he just frustrated the veteran in the fight. He visibly frustrated him. Dvalishvili got him in the fence in the first round and just kneed him the whole time. Dodson complained after the first round, he's just hugging me. And the corner calmed him down and all that. If I remember correctly, I did not see Mike Winklejohn or Greg Jackson. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I didn't remember seeing them. That's weird. I just realized that. I don't know what that's about. That's interesting. Dvalishvili, he had Matt Serra, Ryan Longo, and Aljamain Sterling in the corner. Usual suspects for Dvalishvili. I gotta give him credit, man. He really outthought John Dodson throughout the whole fight. And he beat the veteran. He outthought the veteran. He gave him sneaky. He outlanded him. Well, no, he didn't outland Johnson with strikes, but he had the more effective strikes. I felt like, and he tried to take down Dodson throughout the whole fight, 20 times in fact. He only could take him down twice throughout the fight. Dodson's a hard dude to take down, clearly, or keep down, I should say. Because Dodson got right out of there, right out of the grappling exchange when he was taken down. Just slid right up. Tiny and fast dude. Second round, Dvalishvili outstruck him throughout the rounds, and third round, same thing happened. Dvalishvili is the real deal in this division. I see Dotson maybe being number 15. You know, I see them switching, frankly. You know, I see Dodson. No, I see Sean O'Malley being taken out of the top 15, and I see Dodson going to number 15, and Dvalishvili going to number 12. And I see Chito Vera going to 14. So that's what I see happening. Man, I don't know who. This is interesting. I don't know who Dodson can fight next. Maybe he could fight like a Cody Stamann next or something like that. Or I don't know the 135-pound guys that are coming up besides the two that fought tonight. So we'll see how this goes. And don't forget TJ Dillashaw is coming back, so one of these guys is going to get knocked out of the rankings too. It's interesting, this whole division. It's just crazy. As for Merab Dvalishvili, he was very thankful on the Joe Rogan podcast, or the Joe Rogan post-fight interview. It was very cool to see. And I'm happy that this guy's being successful. I like both of these guys. I realized that during the tail of the tape before the fight. I like both of these guys. It's hard to really root against either one of them. I rooted more for Dodson because he's an entertaining veteran, but I like Dvalishvili. It's hard to not like him. So it's pretty cool that he's getting up in the rankings now. As for who I think he should fight, that's tough. That is tough. I see Dvalishvili fighting Song Yadong. I think that makes sense, personally. I can see Dvalishvili fighting Rob Font next. Or no, Cody Stamann's at 9. I don't know who Dodson fucking fights next. I have no idea. But anyway, it's gonna be an unranked guy, or it's gonna be Song Yadong or something like that, or maybe Chito Vera. But anyway, yeah, it should be interesting. Dvalishvili could fight maybe Dominic. Even Dominic Cruz, but I don't see Dominic taking that fight. Like, why would he? I mean, Dominic's low in the rankings. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, why did he drop down so low? That's weird. But yeah, this is what I see here. Dvalishvili is going to be a hard guy to deal with. I don't see Song Yadong being able to stop the takedown. Dominic Cruz might be able to. He's a wrestler. Rob Font, I don't know if he's going to be able to stop him. Stamann for sure can stop him. Sun Tzu, maybe he can stop him. That's another inch. He can maybe fight a Sun Tzu next. That would be interesting. Jimmy Rivera, he could definitely stop him. The takedowns, I mean. Jose could stop him. Interesting stuff. Next up in the fight card, was Herbert Burns taking on Daniel Pineda. You know, I didn't listen to this fight at all. I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, his last one he had. So I was only watching it. I wasn't listening to it. Herbert Burns missed weight by about 3.5 pounds before this fight, so I didn't like him in this fight, and I thought he was going to win handily. I thought this was going to be another win, and I think a lot of people thought this, but goddamn, was I proven wrong. Apparently, I was proven wrong big time. We Daniel Pineda beat the shit out of him to win this fight. Herbert tried to take Daniel down, if I remember correctly, in the first round, and Daniel gained the upper hand in the ground game, and Daniel beat him up ever since in the first round. In the second round, Herbert gained an advantage on the ground, but Daniel flipped the tables, and he ended up beating the crap out of Herbert to the point where it was stopped late in the second round he had like a cross hold on him on top, and he was like elbowing him in the head without any proper defense. So I think Herb Dean he stopped the fight. So it's an amazing comeback story for Daniel Pineda. He was 35 years old. He is right now, I should say. He was in the UFC at one time, but he was cut, and he had to win 8 fights in a row to get back to the sport, or to this organization. And he did not disappoint for a comeback. I mean, the guy beat the crap out of Herbert Burns, a guy that was highly touted coming into this event. What a fall for Herbert Burns. He lost this fight pretty dominantly, and he missed weight. I mean, that's a double whammy right there. So hopefully he gets back into it. Daniel Pineda is an interesting addition into this featherweight division as well. I would love to see him fight the guy who fought earlier, Danny Chavez. That would be pretty interesting. 2 veterans fighting each other. That'd be pretty cool. And Herbert, I don't know who he's going to fight next. We'll see. There's a lot of people in that featherweight division too, and they're all super good fighters, like amazingly good. So that's another division to look out for. Oh. It's a bummer. It's a bummer for Herbert to miss weight. I wouldn't want him to cut weight. I don't even want to cut weight down for my goal. Yeah. Hard to not eat. But just like that, before we knew it, we got into the big fights of the night. It felt like a short card. It was an average sized card, 11 fights. Next fight was heavyweight between the former UFC world champion Junior Dos Santos taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Jairzinho just got he's back from his loss from Francis Ngannou a couple of months ago. I'm pretty surprised he's back so quickly. That was a pretty brutal TKO from Francis toward him, but he's back. And so, same with Junior. Junior came back rather quickly, too, by Curtis Blades. It's pretty surprising, really. But both guys are back like it's no big deal. And, amazingly, these two are apparently now teammates at American Top Team, and both fighters apparently were almost about to spar each other. Junior offered to spar Jairzinho before the fight, but Jairzinho said, no, I'm just going to do my thing. So that's just a weird thing. That's a weird cycle. I feel like that's mental mind games from Junior. I think that's pretty interesting. So, but Junior's a nice guy. He was singing, he was on Embedded before this fight, and he was singing "What a Wonderful World," and I think that's pretty awesome. I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Okay, I'll stop. But yeah, Junior, I want him to succeed. Clearly, he's been in a lot of wars, and I would like to see him fight for the world title and not decline. I want him to fight for the world championship. Jairzinho, though, I like him too. He's the first ever fighter to come out of Suriname, and he's a beast. I want him to succeed too, but only one could move on toward that goal. very intense throughout the thing. And it lasted 2 rounds. Ended at 3 minutes and 47 seconds with when Jairzinho caught Junior. And he caught him enough to where Junior went down. Jairzinho swarmed on him since. And he was landing him enough to where he really caught Junior in the nose. What happened was he hit Junior in the forehead as Junior was backing up on the cage. And it looked like that kind of dazed Junior. And then Jairzinho immediately followed it up with another shot right to the chin. And that's what dropped Junior. And that's when he started to swarm on Junior. And Junior tried to get up. He hit Junior again in the chin. Junior went down, and from that point on, Jairzinho was just landing shots to confirm the fight was over. The ref stopped the fight. It was pretty impressive by Jairzinho. And both guys hugged each other, sat with each other by the cage in the fight. It was pretty classy. It was the classiest thing I saw all night, really. And you know, you got to wonder where Junior's going to be, you know, in his career going forward. He's had 3 KO losses in a row now in the heavyweight division, and you can't take punishment like that in the heavyweight division all the time. I mean, good God. I don't see Junior fighting beating any of the top 5. He didn't beat number 6 tonight. Him fighting Alistair, I mean, we've seen that before a couple times. Like, I don't know. He can fight Volkov, but Volkov lost. That's another one where it's like, he's just lost. Yeah, he could fight Augusto Sakai, the former Bellator fighter, who won in the Contender Series, and now they're... Oh, no, Junior needs some time off. This is another consecutive knockout. I'd like to see him take some time off. An interviewer asked Dana White at the post-fight press conference about Junior's career, and Dana said, yeah, we'll look into that, basically, after the weekend. And, you know, he was talking about a matchmaking. I'm like, I don't think Junior should worry about a match for months. He should recover. He's been taking he took some hard punches by Rosenstrike tonight. It'd be nice if he just sat and recovered for a little bit if he wants to fight again. So hopefully he's okay. I don't like to see a fighter in decline in the rankings ever. I hate that, but that's just the way the sport is, unfortunately. And I'm growing to accept that in a painful way more and more, so yeah, it sucks. As for Rosenstrike, he just beat the number 5 guy, and the guys who are ranked 4, Derek Lewis, Curtis Blades, and Francis Ngannou, I mean, they all have good arguments to fight for the title next, for God's sake, so maybe they can do a Grand Prix. You know, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Maybe they can do a Grand Prix. We'll see how it goes. I can see Rosenstrike maybe fighting Derek Lewis and looking at the rankings. That makes sense. Rosenstrike fighting Curtis Blades. I mean, Curtis Blades, he's won 2 main events in a row. He smashed Abdurakhimov before that. He's been on a roll. I don't want to see Curtis Blades fight another guy that's not a champion. You know, I want Curtis to wait, but clearly that's not going to be the case, at least for a while. So maybe Curtis Blades against Derek Lewis will happen. And Rosenstrike can maybe take on... No, he already fought Alistair. Fuck. He can maybe take on Augusto Sakai next. That could make sense. Rosenstrike versus Volkov makes sense. Volkov can fight Oleinik, maybe. Or I don't know. tough. Did Volkov and Alistair Overeem fight? Maybe they can fight each other. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. See how this goes. Yeah, I think the best thing for Rosenstrike would be to fight either Volkov, Sakai, probably Sakai or Volkov in that order. That would make sense. Yeah, that's sounds about right. The next fight on the card here would be the co-main event of the evening. Sugar Sean O'Malley, the Sugar Show, taking on Marlon Chito Vera. Boy, I had some heat against Sugar Sean O'Malley for this fight. I don't know, just the natural, he's bred for people to hate him kind of thing. I'm jealous, I'm not going to lie. That's, Sean O'Malley's in a great position, you know, and all the power to him. But and I feel bad for him after tonight, because he clearly got injured tonight in his fight with Marlon, and I hope he's okay. I don't need to see it. I hate it when you see a guy that could be injury prone, because he's getting injured in the same spot, like the exact same area. So it's not confirmed it's the same injury, but it looks like it from tonight. Something happened between Chito and Marlon in the fight, and Marlon hurt his ankle or whatever, something like that, to where he couldn't move as much. Chito took advantage. I think Marlon fell, and Chito went on the ground or something like that. And he ended up striking O'Malley hard a couple times in the face, including one major elbow, and O'Malley looked out of it for a minute. So yeah, Chito could be an interesting guy to watch. O'Malley was out of it though, and he was cringing, like in pain, once the fight was over on that leg. So yeah, O'Malley looked good though. He was faking and stuff early in the fight. And it took a while for Chito to read that. He did read that though, and he was addressing it. I don't know how O'Malley got injured. There was a bad trip he had where his ankle turned a little bit. Maybe that was it, but Chito claimed that it was from a check that he did with one of O'Malley's kicks on his legs, so that could have hurt him. It's very possible. I don't know. The trainer for Sean O'Malley in the UFC embedded videos before this pay-per-view was caught talking trash to Jason Perillo and the trainers of Marlon Chito Vera, which I thought was a little unexpected and maybe even dirty, but all is fair in love and war in terms of trash talk, and I welcomed it in my head. Thought it was a clever move, and Sean looked like a serious contender. He still can be, So yeah, but the hype video for Sean O'Malley before this fight was just fucking insane. It just was like, come on, this is ridiculous. What? And Dana White was in the promo, and he said Sean O'Malley has the it factor. Oh my God, man, Jesus Christ. He had so much hype behind him coming into this fight. And reasonably so. He was 12-0 coming into this fight. But Chito looked like he had ultra confidence coming into this fight. He really did. He looked very impressive in terms of what his composure was. And Chito addressed the fakes in the fight. He read it and he adapted. And he arguably checked the kick that hurt O'Malley, and he finished him. It was a questionable finish by Herb Dean, but you know what? I'm not going to there's nothing to really complain about probably because, you know, O'Malley was hurt. You know, it was probably going to end. It could have ended at the bench, at, you know, between round 1 and 2. You know, his leg was messed up. O'Malley was sent to the hospital for that leg issue, and yeah, I haven't heard any updates since. But O'Malley's in the hospital. Um, O'Malley, I don't know who he's going to fight next. Probably an unranked guy. As for Marlon Vera, who he could fight next, he could maybe fight Song Yadong again. That would be interesting. Merab Dvalishvili would be interesting. Rob Font, Dominic Cruz, since he's so fucking low in the rankings. I don't really get that at all. John Dodson would also be pretty interesting to watch. So yeah, those are all interesting fights. I'm very happy for Marlon. He was referencing the Joe Rogan podcast a lot, which I thought was pretty interesting. And Marlon was criticizing after the fight the trainer of Sean O'Malley for talking a lot of trash and not backing it up and all that stuff. And you know what? He did. The trainer did talk trash according to the video, so or the embedded video. Granted, all fair is in love and war, but also expect the guy to talk trash after you after trash talking commences before. So it never ends. It never ends with trash talking. It's always interesting. The main event. The main event of this card. Boy, I have a lot to say about this. Daniel Cormier against Stipe. Yeah, both guys came in great. You know, Stipe came in super skinny for this fight. It was very interesting. Bruce Buffer did a great job of the announcing. I thought that was awesome. Boy, the lineup for Daniel Cormier when he was announced, that was a hell of a resume right there. Going into the fight, Cormier went for a takedown, had was on top of Stipe. Stipe got out of it. Cormier landed some big strikes, but so did Stipe. But Cormier held his own in the first round. Going into it. And I thought that Cormier won the first round. I think a lot of people did. Second round, it was a different story. Stipe had the strikes going. It was dead even. But Stipe, in the biggest moment of the fight probably, he had Cormier with 2 big shots when he was on the cage. And Cormier fell. He hit Cormier, and Cormier tumbled. And he was on top of Cormier. He was about to finish him, but the round stopped. Cormier was clearly dazed. He went to the cage, dazed, and just trying to recover. In the first round, I should mention that Cormier did poke Stipe in the eye. Apparently that was a big problem. It was a problem for Stipe in the past. You know, I'm going to get to it. There were 2 really bad eye pokes in this fight. And that doesn't fall on the UFC fighters. That falls on the UFC for not fucking getting new gloves already. Just get the new fucking gloves. How hard is it? Like, seriously. There's been gloves introduced by Trevor Whitman on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I really don't get why they're not brought in already. Just fucking do it. Get rid of eye pokes. They're bad for the sport. Anyway, Cormier was still trying to compose himself in the third round. He landed some interesting strikes with Stipe, but Stipe posted him on the fence and held him there basically. Trying to take him down, don't get me wrong, but just never succeeded. Cormier wasn't doing a whole lot going into the fight, or going into this round. Wasn't doing a lot. Dominic Cruz argued that Cormier might be resting heading into the 4th and 5th round. Not what he likes to do, but he finds it necessary, I guess. So Cormier, the round ended. I gave that round to Stipe. 4th round came. Oh, in the third round, that's where Cormier got poked super bad, like awful bad by Stipe. The referee, Mark Goddard, did not see the eye poke, which was really bad stuff. So yeah, that's pretty bad. I think Mark Goddard really messed up there, and it could have affected the fight. You know, Dana said, "Well, Stipe got poked too." Yeah, well, Cormier couldn't see. Stipe didn't complain like that. It's a different level of eye poke, dude. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. It's not fucking rocket science. Sometimes your eye hurts. Other times your eye hurts so bad you might need to go to the hospital. There's a difference. There's a difference there. That's just my opinion. But yeah, there is a difference. Um, Next up, Stipe or the fourth round, I should say. Daniel put the pressure on. He landed more shots than Stipe, even with only fighting with one eye. Stipe managed to get the job done in the fourth round. Finally, was the fifth round where Stipe had a couple shots on Daniel. Daniel also landed shots. This fight was fucking awesome at this point. It was epic. It was what we wanted. A lot of people tweeting about it, including The Rock. And Stipe landed some shots. What he really did though, with Daniel Cormier in this fifth round, this is what bothers me. He he pushed Daniel toward the fence and he basically double underhooked him, hugged him basically, and controlled the wrist without really punching him a whole lot. You know, that's not what you do. You just don't do that. Hmm. So yeah, it was Stipe didn't do any damage while grappling Daniel in that round. Jesus Christ, I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired. Sorry about that, guys. But Stipe didn't do anything. Stipe did not do anything with Daniel in the fifth round when he had him on the fence. He didn't do anything. And it's annoying that the judges count that and don't realize that Stipe didn't do anything on the fence. And now they're calling him the greatest of all time. He held him in the fence in the fifth round. He didn't damage him at all on the fence. Why is that so hard to understand? And you give two judges give Stipe a 49-46 win. What the fuck is that? What are with these judges? This is the Nevada. This is the fight state of the world. You're supposed to have good judges, and we got two 49-46 in this fight. I think Daniel was mad about that too when he lost. In case you haven't noticed, Stipe won. He is considered the GOAT according to the UFC as of all time in the heavyweight division. Hard to argue. Hard to argue if Stipe won this fight. I thought Daniel had a good argument for winning this fight. I really do. Looking back on it, he landed just a little bit more shots. Man, I don't know. I don't know. This was a very close fight. Yeah, but I'm not upset that Stipe won. I'm upset with a couple things. A couple things that maybe should be fixed in the UFC. First and foremost, they need to fix their gloves. They need to get new gloves. They need to get Trevor Whitman's gloves. These gloves, these eye pokes, they could very easily be changing a fight. Get rid of eye pokes by changing the gloves. Why is that so difficult? I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Um, Daniel Cormier was, you know, he thought it was kind of ridiculous. He couldn't even see. There wasn't a call. He also complained about a groin strike, but I didn't see that. But this fight, I don't feel like I'm giving it enough credit, though. This fight was amazing. It was right there with the fight of the night. And it was everything we hoped for in terms of an epic fight for both champions. They're amazing fucking fighters. It was an awesome fight. Awesome fight. But yeah, I thought Daniel won. I thought this was a close fight, and Daniel quite arguably won this fight. Stipe didn't do anything to him when they were on the fence. He just held him. That's not damage. You know, Daniel damaged him, maybe more so than Stipe did damaged Daniel in the fifth round. Daniel Cormier makes a great argument for winning that fight. It's really back and forth. I don't know who won. It was an awesome fight, and I just don't know. I don't know if Stipe won. Another little tidbit I want to mention. They really got to shut the fuck up with some of these tweets. And they really need to pick their spots when plugging these tweets in. I'm talking about the announcers. 30 seconds into the last 5 minutes. There are 30 seconds left in the championship fight to determine the greatest heavyweight fighter of all time. With 30 seconds left, John Anik, he can't talk about the fight. He has to talk about LeBron James's tweeting about the fight. Shut up, John. The fucking fight is happening right now. Stop. Just call the fight, you idiot. I don't know. That's just, I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe I was listening to that. It's like, John Anik, you're a pro. Shut up. Just do it. Just be John Anik. Just shut up. Shut up. Dude. 30 seconds left in the fight, and you have to talk about LeBron James' tweet and how. Oh. Anyway, it's like give me a headache. Come on, dude. But yeah, I honestly, I thought Daniel won the fight. I edged it for Daniel. 49-46 is bullshit. I'm gonna look up those judges another time and see who scored those cards. The 48-47 one, I can live with Stipe winning. It was too close of a fight to call, for me at least. But man, 49-46, these guys need to have their eyes checked. Come on, all the cards should have been 48-47. It was so close of a fight. It was just ridiculous. And Daniel had a pretty somber post-fight press conference. He wasn't crying. He didn't do any. He wasn't visibly super upset about it, but he was clearly bummed about it. Thought it was ridiculous that the eye poke wasn't called, and I can agree with him. That was a pretty crazy. I didn't see that moment. Jesus. So yeah, I think Daniel Cormier. I don't see him fighting for light heavyweight again. Maybe if John Jones wins at heavyweight, that's the only time we'll see Daniel Cormier fight in the octagon again. Other than that, to me, he's retired. And I look at Daniel Cormier's career, and I see one of the greatest of all time. He's kind of like a Hakeem Olajuwon of the NBA, as to what he is in the UFC. He's maybe not the GOAT, but he's right up there. He's like in the top 5 of greatest of all time. He just is. He'd be like number 2, like an ultimate number 2, which is nothing to be ashamed of. Look at the resume of this combat athlete legend, this epic legend of sports. An Olympian wrestler, wrestled for I think the national title at Oklahoma, or up there at least. Entered MMA, went into Strikeforce, won the Strikeforce Grand Prix by fucking destroying a former UFC champion in Josh Barnett, while Barnett was in his prime, just fucking him up in that fight, and winning the Grand Prix in Strikeforce. Entered the UFC, beat everybody in the heavyweight division before going down to light heavyweight. Destroyed Dan Henderson in his debut. Went for the light heavyweight title, finally lost. Lost to John Jones. Win again. I think he beat Patrick Cummings, then he fought Anthony Johnson for the new light heavyweight championship. Defended the belt, defeated Gustafson, defeated Ozdemir, lost to John Jones, but whatever. John Jones was maybe on something, I don't know. I think he was proven wrong. Well, no, he wasn't. He tested positive. But Jones and Cormier, that was like the rivalry in MMA. It still feels like it is sometimes. Cormier then went to heavyweight, and that's where he fought Stipe. Became a two-division champion, light heavyweight and heavyweight. Nobody's ever done that with the two biggest weight classes. I don't know if anybody will again, except for John Jones, if he fights Stipe next. And I just think Daniel's one of the greatest of all time, and he should be looked like that. He should be looked at as a champion. I remember people booed Daniel Cormier, including me, when he debated John Jones in press conferences and stuff, but I think the tides have turned now. I think the tides with me are officially turning, where I would root for Daniel Cormier and boo John Jones, a guy who should be booed for what he's done. Dominic Cruz, he said it, in the post-fight discussion between the announcers when the show ended. He's praising Dominic Cruz about how Dominic Cruz is praising John Jones of how John Jones is giving back to the community consistently as of late, and how he's been doing great during this pandemic. And like, have you not seen the news of John Jones during the pandemic lately? He just got a DUI. He just got a DUI, and he also got charged for having an illegal firearm in his fucking car. How hard is it to not stay home during a fucking pandemic? I mean, God, why are you praising this guy? John Jones literally just got a DUI this summer. It just blows my mind. I love Dominic Cruz, but boy, just at least don't mention the giving back to the community part, because he's also taking away from the community with this DUI thing by giving him bad press. I don't know. Daniel Cormier is more of a likable guy. He's more of an upstanding representative for the sport and for his community. And he just comes off, his story is more likable than John Jones, who just throws everything away. It's hard to really have a guy in Daniel Cormier's position be rooted over John Jones, but that's kind of what happened. For me, at least, it was a complete 180 for who I like and who I dislike between those two. And I wish I could like both, but Daniel Cormier is a champion. And just so is John Jones, but Daniel Cormier is a good person. Plain and simple. And he has a champion's mindset. He's tough. He's strong. He's an Olympian. He's a champion. Daniel Cormier is one of the greatest of all time. Period. End of story. And I'd love to meet that guy someday. He seems like a very cool dude. And that's just what I think. I think he's amazing. As for Stipe, is he the greatest of all time? I don't know. I don't know if Stipe should be considered that. Considering the huge eye poke, and considering that Stipe didn't damage Daniel throughout the 5th round, when he was grappling him at least. When he did punch Daniel punched back. And I think he punched back just a tad more so than Stipe did between punches. He never took Daniel down. I don't agree with it. I don't know if Stipe is the greatest of all time. He probably is, but he made an argument against himself tonight with some of this stuff. The gloves, just the stuff with the cage, and I don't know. He probably is, but I don't know. It sounds like he's going to face Ngannou next. Dana White pretty much said so. And I think that's how it should be. Francis Ngannou has more than earned a rematch against Stipe. So I guess they're gonna fight maybe in January, maybe, just like how they did at that point. What would have been 3 years ago, you know. And Francis has learned a lot since then. Clearly, he seems like a more complete fighter. Um, so Stipe has his hands full soon. Um, all right, I think that will be it tonight, guys. I'm getting out of it, but yeah, that's what I think about it. That's what I think. Dana White was, you know, I don't remember what Dana White said. I think I pretty much said what he thought. A couple of things about the post-fight press conference. Uh, I think Dana White said something about how he was thinking about making a lab in order to work on COVID so he could open up places. He was thinking that at one point. That's very interesting. That was an interesting tidbit. I'd like to learn more about that. That sounds pretty cool. And I think that's pretty much it from all the interviews and stuff. So yeah, I think that's it. I thought this was a great show, enjoyable. The second biggest show in the pandemic since, well, actually the third. I'd put over Tony, Justin, and then Fight Island would be one, maybe. So this could be number three, maybe. No, it's number two. This is the greatest of all time heavyweight fight. So yeah, that's what I think. This was a great show. I'm glad I bought it. I'm not going to buy a show at least for another 2 months when Habib fights Justin Gaethje for the title. So until then, I'll see you then. Like and subscribe this video. Thank you for having me and listening to my content. I appreciate it big time. I enjoy this. I enjoy talking about this, even though I feel exhausted. I'm glad I got it done. It's awesome. I'm going to talk more about MMA soon. Probably do some predictions of next week's card between Frankie Edgar and Pedro Munoz. Looking at this card, that chick Maria Agapova, she's pretty cute. She's fighting Shayna Dobson at flyweight. Should be interesting. Dwight Grant's fight, no. Yeah, some interesting fights coming in. Interesting fights. Alonzo Metafield versus Ovid St. Preux. That's going to be a pretty dope fight. Marcin Prachnio versus Mike Rodriguez at light heavyweight. Also interesting. There you go. Should be an interesting card coming up. Alrighty, guys, that is the show. Like and subscribe this video, and stay tuned for future content. It should be popping up soon. I hope you enjoy the channel as it grows. I am looking forward to seeing more of you. Until then, though, I will catch you on the Burnside, and you have a great Sunday tomorrow, and peace. That's all for now.